Okay.
You look pretty.
You look lovely.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I had it set up on a different event, so hopefully people will find us.
Okay. How do we know like what they're asking?
We should be able to find the chat.
Okay.
Just looking for the chat. I may just look on my phone. That may be the easiest thing to do. It came up with Yogi's picture as the thumbnail. Okay, I can see the chat now on my phone. Hi, everyone. It came up with Yogi's picture as the thumbnail. Okay, I can see the chat now on my phone. Hi, everyone. Hi, Allie. Hey, Dee. It came up with Yogi's picture as the thumbnail. Okay, I can see the chat now. Hey, my S word reviews. Hi, Lex. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Erin. Hey, Jamie. Hey, Britt. So we may, what we're probably going to do is we're going to host this on my channel. It'll be up here for a minute, and then as soon as I can figure out how to download it, which will probably be when I get home tomorrow, then we'll go ahead and upload it over to Betty's channel, I think, if that's what she wants to do.
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine.
So good evening, everybody. Welcome. Betty, you guys all know who Betty Wilder is. She is a lovely lady who, out of her spare time, has been testing these lipsticks. And she reached out to me about a week ago and asked if I would be okay with helping, being a part of this conversation. And we decided to host it on my channel just because we figured I could figure out the tech, which, let me tell you, I did by the skin of my teeth and with help. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. Betty has a lot of experience. Her all of her information is in the description box as far as her channel and her credentials. But Betty, maybe you want to introduce yourself, and we're going to have Laura on with us as well here in a minute. Go ahead, Betty. It's all you.
All right. Hang on a second. Oh my gosh. All right. This is fun. This is just like spontaneous, and like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. My name is Betty. I am the quality control director for a food manufacturing company. I've been there for 28 years. Can you guys hear me? I hope you can hear me. Anyway, and okay, and so yeah, so just about a month ago now, I think it's like a month to the day, I tried to buy some Jacqueline Cosmetics lipsticks, and found out that they were unavailable. So they either been pulled from the website or they were out of stock, I don't know which. And I was seeing some issues online with people. And the quality control is kind of like what I do. So I'm the quality control director. I handle all of our OSHA requirements, our FDA requirements, the Food Safety Modernization Act requirements, work with the USDA, work with FDA inspectors, auditors, and basically like establish all our like standard operating procedures and protocols for testing and so that we can, get in good raw ingredients and send out good product. So, and now I'm testing lipsticks in my spare time, which I don't have very much of, but that is what I'm doing. So I did some microbial testing that I put the results of, and now I'm focusing on microscopic examination. I just got like a full kit of the Jacqueline Cosmetics, and plus I have a lot of control lipstick, so I'm not just focusing on one thing. There might be some larger industry issues here, but yeah, that's like basically like what I do. So you guys might have seen the video that I posted about the microbial testing. I did find some mold in the inside cap of the lipstick. All the lipstick so far testing negative. I also did like a preservative study, and like that was trying to still figure out a way to test the integrity of the waxes and the oils that are in there. Which I might have to like actually like there's a company in Germany that does um, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, which sounds like a big word, but it's they're actually testing the aldehyde levels in there to see if the actual products are the actual raw ingredients that went in there might have been either old or had some some rancidity issues with them. It's weird to me. I just opened this box today of the Jacqueline set, and I'm telling you, there's like not all there's almost not a lipstick that smells the same as another lipstick. So that's where I am today. I didn't have enough time to do a lot of other things. I have like 2 video cameras now, so I can focus better on the microscopy testing that I'm going to be doing. So, but I'm sure like other people had some other questions about like other things. And is Laura on yet? Because she had some stuff she wanted to add to it too.
Yeah, she'll be getting on in just a minute. I think she's having issues with the invite.
Okay.
So we're getting her on. She'll be with us in just a minute.
What do you have to say, Jen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say that nobody's trying to be unkind to like another
No,
the brand as a brand owner. I want to be unkind to another brand. Definitely not trying to be unkind to a person, but I do feel that public health and safety is a big thing, and I think that we should all keep in mind. I think Kenna Whitnell said it very well, that the lipsticks are most definitely contaminated. There's visual contaminants in them, so regardless of the microbial testing, whether they turned out to have other added guests in the formulation,
right,
is really it is very important, especially for people who have compromised immune systems. But I think we just can't lose sight of the fact that that they are definitely contaminated.
They are, and the self-admittedly. I mean, if you watch that my lipsticks video, there, it's basically, it's kind of, ironic because she said that, they were using cotton gloves, there were cotton fibers, they were using cotton towels. But yeah, that's all okay for you. And that's not all okay. I mean, physical contaminants, especially through porous surfaces like towels and gloves, can spread anything that might be on the hands. And I've been trying to stay away from all the conjecture of like where these were made, and are there dogs running around these labs, and just trying to like just stick with the science, and trying to do side-by-side controls with all the lipsticks that I've been testing. But just the inconsistencies of what the brand owner is saying. At one point she says in the first video, oh, the lipsticks melt at 145 degrees. Well, if you go on the FAQ, the frequently asked questions right now today, they list the melting point at 129 to like 155 degrees. That's a big difference. That's for something that that there aren't radical differences in the ingredients between one shade and another shade, for there to be a 23-degree span of the lipstick melting point. is an inconsistency, and frankly, I just don't know why a recall hasn't been issued already.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I was most distressed about was the test results that that were posted. I was a little bit puzzled, and of course, I think Laura can speak more to this when she gets on. But I was a little surprised that they would do the GCMS test, because the only thing that would isolate would be the most volatile ingredients. So your solvents, your fragrance, things like that. It wouldn't tell you what's actually in it. You're testing for various ingredients. And first of all, that's just like a pretty basic test, super inexpensive. You can test for about a few $100s per ingredient that you're testing for. And obviously, what the volatile ingredients are that are in your formula. So that isn't a full chemical analysis. It's a very basic analysis. It would only point out certain ingredients, and it doesn't tell you what else is in it besides those things. So I was kind of puzzled by the decision to do that rather than a full chemical analysis. That threw me a little.
Well, a full chemical, heavy metals, arsenic. There's a lot of other things that have been found in lipsticks before, asbestos, lead. None of that was tested for, and basic microscopy or basic filtration to determine physical contaminants wasn't done. Which is to me would be basic. I mean, I know that there's claims of metal and plastic and those things. If people are out there are finding them, she should have enough retained samples that she could send out. And that's another thing that is really annoying me about this is a lot of these tests are like from consulting companies where they say, okay, yeah, we've looked at the 12-month stability study. Okay, well, great. Can I see the 12-month stability study that you looked at to determine that? Because I have not seen the 12-month stability study. I mean, what was that done on? What was that done on? Like a prototype, a year ago, and you're just saying, okay, well, those results look good. Let's just pass this. So, to me, it raises, like every day, it's just raising, more and more and more and more questions.
Right.
There's only so much I can do. I mean, I can't do heavy metal analysis here. I would think it would be up to the brand owner to completely reassure people, and issuing a recall is like not the end of the world. Like people are like, oh no, there's like a class 1 recall, there's a class 2 recall, there's like a class 3 recall. So class 1 recall is like, there's lead, there's arsenic, there's a poison in here that's gonna like your E. coli. I think that like today the USDA said that there was a recall on spinach again for E. coli in it. Those are things that are like imminent dangers. And then there's like a class 2 recall where it's that your product can grow bacteria like Pseudomonas. And then there's like a class 3 recall, which is like, oh, we might have gotten some dirt in it. And you don't, I mean, so she would have to issue a voluntary recall unless, the FDA would like to pursue this and like take legal action against it. But and just looking back, like at the recalls of, the cosmetic recalls of the last like 10 years or so, you look at like about 90% of them, 90% of them are either falling into the adulterated chemical or bacterial issue. So I think what she ended up doing was releasing the results of those tests to say, okay, so everything that, Benefit Cosmetics and all these other people that have done recalls in the past and it hasn't like killed their business and they've come back and they've, manufactured other products are, we're okay with those. So we're okay with those. So we don't have to issue a recall. But you can issue a recall because you know, your component's unstable. You can order, all you have to say is there's a possible contamination with cotton fibers. Done. That's all. Like, even what she admitted to, you know, in her video, you don't need, like, I was reading through a couple of them, and I mean, I have like the paperwork here. It's yeah, it's just one of them was like from one customer complaint, and they recalled, like, Pampers recalled like hundreds of thousands of packages of diapers because they got one complaint in that or diaper wipes, wet baby wipes, that it smelled off. So they literally just said, okay, we're going to recall everything. And you know, the reason for the recall is possible, you know, customer complaint, possible off smell. That's all, like, they have to say. They could just say like what they've already admitted to, you know, production mixing failures, potential contamination with cotton fibers, and be done with it. That's all they would have to do. And bought all of their lipsticks because it was all done online. They could reach those people and they could just say, okay, the potential exists that there could be an issue with this product, either discard it or return it. And that's all a recall means. I mean, they don't even have to pick shipping. They could just say discard the product. So it's, you know, and I don't know, like, the more time goes by, the more, like, I'm like, is she just, you know, is she hoping that it just kind of like blows over? Is it, this would have been easy if she had just done this like 1 week into the thing and just said, okay, there's a potential for contamination from cotton fibers. We're recalling these lipsticks. I had no idea the manufacturer was using this. You know, I'm going to seek recourse against them for, you know, not informing me of this, but we're recalling these lipsticks for the, you know, possibility of contamination. That's all she would have had to do. And it would have been done. And people would have been like, oh, yeah, okay, well, you know, maybe, you know, I want to keep it. Maybe I'm going to throw it away. Um, but I mean, that's just my opinion. My opinion is, you know, she didn't even have to do like a class 1 recall where, okay, we have like E. coli 1571 and it's going to kill you. It's just that's not, you know, the issue. The issue is like basically like 4 things that she admitted to, like, on the video: poor mixing, not mixing properly enough, cotton fibers and towels in the production line. Any one of those, you could have just said, and you don't even, you know, you don't have to say, oh, this makes the product unsafe, you know, something's going to happen to you. You just said possible, you know, reason for recall, possible contamination with cotton fibers, and been done. What do you think, Jen?
I lost you a little bit in the audio there. I'm trying to
Talk.
help Laura get on. I think it would be great if you could start off by just kind of letting everybody know what you actually did find inside the lipstick, because you did not find certain things, but you did find other things. You didn't find mold or whatever inside the lipsticks. But what did you find inside the lipsticks that you have looked at so far?
So far, the ones that I have looked at, and I have looked at 16 under the microscope. Some of them were just like sterile slices, and some of them I've actually like melted and just tried to like uh, well, I'll make a video about that later, but yeah, different microscopic techniques for isolating the lipsticks. So I haven't found any glass, thank God. I haven't found any plastic, thank God. I found what I thought was metal. We actually do have a very sophisticated metal detector on our conveyor belt in our production line. So I ran that entire lipstick through the metal detector, and it did not come up a piece of the H from the component of the lipstick. Now, not the component that lipstick was in, but the letter H from some broken piece of a component. I found a lot of blue fibers, which is weird. I don't know if they were using blue towels or why there would be blue fibers. Tons of like cotton fibers. Something that I think may be an eyelash. And that's about the extent. Now, there's a lot of things I'm trying to like catch up on as far as like what things look like under the microscope, because there's a lot of her pigments that look blue or look and I don't know how they mix pigments together to get, a shade that they're getting. So I think another person found that the pigment dispersal is off. The if you dig into the base of the lipstick base is almost a lighter color than the middle and the tip. So I think like the pigments are definitely not like completely distributed throughout the whole thing. Um, but yeah, as far as like something like like an inch long hair, no, I didn't find anything that nasty yet. I like I said, I found a piece of what I thought was metal, but I did run it through the metal detector and it was negative. So to me, the only other thing that it looks like that I can like see is a piece of like the actual component itself. So that's kind of where I am, but I have like a lot. I was waiting for a shipment, so I just got like the big collection in. So there's a lot more testing coming with that.
You had mentioned to me that you thought that
But
maybe
I want to hear from you, Jen.
you thought that maybe the piece of metal that you found was a little piece of one of the letters from the component.
Yeah, it looked like if you took the letter H and just cut it in half and then shortened the pieces so it looked like a what would you call that? Like this. So it
Mm-hmm.
looked like a little piece like this, and I thought like the letter H. Now I haven't. I mean, I would to test that. I would have to literally like peel off one of the H's and stick them under the microscope and compare them side by side, which I haven't gotten to yet. But yeah, it looked like a piece of the component. And I'm wondering now if like some of the plastic that they're finding, some of the other things that they're finding, are all could be pieces of the component too. I'm not gonna like theorize or like drop some tea on how long I think these components may have been around. I theorized before that maybe that was a potential for the contamination on the cap that I found with mold. Because if they would have been stored in a warehouse or stored somewhere where it got wet, that would be a growth medium for that. But like how lipsticks are made. So when the lipstick is actually the bullet is actually like put into the base, where are the caps hanging out?
The caps are normally when the components come.
I mean the caps are like separate from the lipstick.
Yeah, normally when the components come, they come in pieces where they're in different boxes. So the bases might be in one box and the caps might be in the other. If it was something with a wiper, maybe the wipers might be in the boxes with the caps, but normally they're separated and they're not put together until it's the finished product is done. So the basic process for making lipstick is, number one, all the raw materials are verified. So there is like quality assurance, quality control that takes place at every step of the process, which really confuses me about this whole deal to no end, because it's just impossible if these procedures were followed at any step of the process that this wouldn't have been cut. So I'm really confused about that, but I'll just tell you what normally happens and then we can kind of go from there. So normally when the raw materials come in, they would be verified and then signed off on by quality assurance. Then they go into pre-weight. So at the pre-weight stage, what they would do is measure out the amount required for the recipe of each individual product. The same as if you were baking cookies or a cake or something like that. You have your 2 cups of flour and your half a cup of sugar, that kind of thing. So they get measured. Then quality assurance comes and signs off. Then they go into the actual stage where some of the butters and waxes and things, I'm sure, have to be heated up and melted, and they have to be heated to a certain degree for a certain amount of time, and that again would be dictated by by the formula. And so in accordance with the recipe, the compounding department would take care of heating those waxes and butters to the prescribed temperature, and then they would mix all of the ingredients together in the base, which is basically a colorless version of the lipstick. And then particular to that color, they would add in the specific pigments, mix it up. And once it's all mixed together, then quality assurance would test it again. So quality assurance has tested it now 2-3 times, right? At each stage, and now they're going to test it again. So they would do.
They should, yes.
They would do a swatch test on the arm. And one of the things that I did see in a couple of the videos that I saw where people like melted their lipsticks and messed with them was that there were not huge chunks, but just not smooth pieces within the lipsticks. And so those pieces that are not smooth, to me, in my experience, look like maybe lower quality butters and waxes that just didn't melt all the way in the process. Because higher grade ingredients, of course, perform like a charm, and the lower grade ingredients tend to have certain issues with that. So in my experience, when I've seen that before, it's been because it was lower grade ingredients, maybe not 100% pure or, whatever. So they would do a swatch test, and they should catch that right then and there when they swatch it. Because when you swatch it, you can see those, especially when it's warm and the lipstick is liquidy, and it's very easy to, to see that there's parts that just aren't smooth. And then once that's done, then it would be poured into the molds. Now, normally in a mixture, there is going to be a scrap factor. So depending on the type of product that you're making, the scrap factor could be as little as 5% and as much as 15% of the mixture that would never be used. It's kind of like the bottom of your bowl when you're making cookies. There's all that flour and stuff that never quite gets mixed in along the side and on the bottom. That's your scrap factor in a batch of lipsticks. And so you would pour those into the molds. The molds would go into cold storage, depending on the formula, maybe for 12 hours, maybe for 48 hours. And sorry, Dia is texting me. We're still trying to get Laura on, people. This is not my forte. Okay. Let's see here. She's telling me to close something. Okay. Sorry, I can't figure out what you guys are trying to tell me. So, yes, I can send it to you, Dee. I will send it to you now. Sorry, Betty. Maybe you want to.
We need help. I think we're too old to be running this by ourselves.
I know, right? Maybe you want to say something really fast.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, to me, one of the major issues that I'm having is the traceability of this whole process. So just being in QC and QA, we're able to track our raw ingredients. Like, they come in the door before the seal is even like broken on the truck. A QC tech goes out, they get the certificate of analysis from their manufacturer, and they bring in a sample. And before we let that truck unload or get any product out of it, we run some initial testing on the sample that they bring in, and we compare it with the certificate of analysis. And this is not an ingredient list. This isn't the actual certificate of analysis of that, lot number or batch number or product number that we are receiving. So, when we get that in, we'll run our initial test. We'll say, okay, you can unload it. They unload it. We assign it a lot number, and it automatically goes on quality control hold. So that product will be you know, they can't even like accidentally use it. I mean, it's locked in the inventory. We'll run some additional testing. Now I know like every cosmetics lab, you know, factory. They're not labs, they're factories. They're made in factories. So I don't know if they have internal labs that can run all of the testing. Maybe they send some testing out. We do subcontract some of our testing, but that product will, you know, remain on QC hold until all the testing that we need to run is completed. And they're not just like pass fail tests. They're like, you know, free fatty acid is 0.2%, you know, moisture is 0.1%, iodine value 8.9. You know, they're actual like numbered tests that need to conform to our ingredient specifications. So, you know, and then once that product is released, we get all the testing back. That product is released, it can go into production. In our fats, like in our, you know, coconut oil, castor oils, butters, if that if that batch hasn't been completely cold again, it needs to be retested before it could go back in again. So now we have, you know, we have the certificate analysis from the manufacturer. We have our testing on that product. That product then goes into production. Then the finished product is tested. And then, you know, and everything now by batch number, production number, lot number, or whatever you want to call it, can be completely traced back. You know, even if it's like 1% of the ingredient in you know, in lipstick and in what we do here, you know, we can trace it back to what lot number, you know, what production code was having a complaint. So, you know, we'll trace it back to all the ingredients. We can pull all of those retained samples. We have pounds and pounds of retained samples. And, I saw the results on the PDFs that were posted. Okay, 6 shades of this lipstick were sent in, 6 shades of this lipstick, of like 4 lipsticks were like sent in. Where are like all of like the retained samples that track this from raw ingredient certificate of analysis from whatever manufacturer they got it from, all the way through their testing? you know she sent it to the P&R consultant group, and they said, okay, we reviewed 12 months stability testing and it seemed okay. So clearly, and that was in May. So clearly they didn't do a 12 stability test, because you can't do a 12-month stability test and release a product, that you made on the 15th, on the 30th, right? So they just reviewed something, a prototype of the lipstick that was made, 12 months ago, that might not even reflect the same ingredients that actually went into the manufacturing of the batches of lipstick. And, assigning just like one batch code, how do you track that back? How do you know, it was just that one color? It was, so get this straight. Are vats, like, what does a vat hold? Like, how many lipsticks does that make?
I would only be estimating, but I would think probably 30 to 40,000 units would be the maximum that you could get out of one of those vats. I don't see it being any more. And I'm with you on the batch codes. The batch codes to me make absolutely no sense. I can't speak to that because I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen production codes. I mean, I've been making makeup for 8 years. I've never seen production codes. I don't know, like that one is weird to me. And as far as like the stability testing goes, that one kind of threw me as well. So stability tests are done basically to determine how a product will age. And there are tools in the lab that you can use to age a product, but there's no way to perform a 12-week stability test over the span of 6 weeks. That's impossible. If you're going to do a 12-week stability test, it takes 12 weeks.
Right.
That can tell you how the lipstick should perform within certain parameters over the course of a year or two. And if that's the shelf life of these lipsticks, that would make sense. But there's just a lot of things that don't make sense to me from my experience, but I certainly don't know everything. I mean, I know what I've been involved in over the years. I just think I feel like it's important for people to have good information just so that they can make good decisions. And, I mean, I don't think nobody says, oh, I want to recall my first, my first thing that I launched. But at the same time, you have to value the people that you're serving more than your ego or whatever. And I really think there's been, times over the years, for those of you who are older, you might remember the Tylenol situation in the 80s. Tylenol came back bigger and better than ever because of how they handled that situation.
Right.
I felt. And I think anytime, I used to teach guys to sell cars. And back when I was in the car business, I would tell my salespeople, look, if your customer calls you the day after they bought a car and they have an issue, be glad that they're calling you, because this is an opportunity for you to earn their business for life by taking care of them and doing the right thing. And so I think it's really just how you look at a situation like that. Nobody wants to have a situation like that happen. I'm sure that in this case, that was like the last thing that was in the plan. But at the end of the day, if you do the thing that's going to benefit your customers, it's going to benefit you. And I feel that in this particular instance, I mean, if it was me, as soon as I knew that there was anything that shouldn't be there, you would just say, hey, you know what, just do me a favor. You don't have to recall them right away. Just say, hey, you know what, do me a favor. If you have these, don't touch them. Just don't touch them. Let us test them and see, find out what's really going on.
Right.
And if you want a refund in the meantime, just ask. We'll provide it.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, would have probably said, you know what, totally, we'll wait it out. I think very few people would have asked for refunds in that case. It's the continual insistence that the products are safe that makes me uncomfortable, because you don't know. And you're
uncomfortable
on video.
Yes.
You can say to an extent that some of that is, could be created for, to stir up drama or whatever. But it's really hard to say that about everything and everyone. So that's, I think, and like I said, some of the paperwork to me is a little bit disingenuous, just because, to me, I felt like the GCMS testing, it doesn't prove anything. But to the average consumer, they might say, okay, well, there's a test. There it is. It's safe.
No.
It's not telling you what's in the product. It's only telling you certain things that are in the product.
Right. And it's also when you run a GCMS, you tell it what column you want to run those ingredients through. So basically you're telling it like what you want, just everything. It's not like if there was like acetone or toluene or some weird like volatile chemical, and you're not running the column that, or the procedure that's going to test for that, then you're going to have, you're not going to like find that. So, but I think like, she's trying to address the complaints to some degree, like, the people that were complaining about the smell. So yeah, okay, she's proven there's vanilla in there. And, but there's like so much more that can be done, and so much more that can be, brought to the forefront if she wants to. If she, want her manufacturing facility, like I said, should have all of those documents. They should have documents that can, prove the age of the raw ingredients that were used, prove the numbers of the raw ingredients that were used, all the things that could, assure people that yes, these in fact, were delivered on April 24th, and we used them, May 15th. There's, I don't know, like how that's what I would do. Like if I was auditing a lab, I would go in the lab and I would say, okay, track back your ingredients. Tell me where they came from. Tell me, have they been in any other manufacturing facilities? Give me the whole, has somebody joined us? give me the whole, rundown on your product, and don't just tell me that you sent some preliminary results and sent a lipstick to a consulting firm and then sent like 6 bags of 4 lipsticks for microbiological testing and everything's cool, so we're done. Yeah, we can see you. I can see you. Who is that? Is that Laura?
Darla, you're so funny.
I see another person.
Dee's trying to help Laura get on. So Laura's just having issues. She's trying. She's gonna get on with us, and I think she can speak a lot to the technical part of it. Like I said, I mean, I have experience with manufacturing cosmetics, but I think she has done a lot more in her career. And I think there's a lot that she can speak to. Maybe we can take a couple of questions. One of the things that you had said was that everything smelled different. Is there a reason why you think that everything smells different? And I mean, to some degree, we have to just speculate because we weren't there. But what's your thought process about that? Betty, did I lose you?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Laura, you made it.
The link never came through. Sorry, guys.
No worries. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and maybe you can give everybody your background, and then Betty can answer my question. Laura? Okay, now we lost Betty.
Okay, fun times. Sorry for the echo. We just moved into a new house, so I have an empty office. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay. Well, I am a retired formulation chemist.
Go ahead.
And I used to work in water-soluble polymer films. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag here trying to get used to what's going on. Anyway, I worked with a lot of very similar cosmetic.
Go ahead, we're listening.
Ingredients. And I've gone over everything Jacqueline Hill has posted, and kind of have some thoughts and opinions that Jen and Betty have already discussed. So,
yes, I'm not sure what happened. We seem to have lost Betty.
Okay then.
Sorry about that. Hopefully, I'm not sure what the delay is all about. Betty and I seem to be doing fine. I don't know what, I don't know what happened. Dee is saying that you muted the YouTube side. I'm not sure what that means. But yeah, we were just talking about the testing and the documents, and I was saying that some of the things that I thought were a bit disingenuous. I don't like talking over people's heads. I hate it when people do it to me. Every tech person I've ever hired, they use these big words, and I'm like, okay, don't talk to me about that because I don't understand any of that. Just talk to English. And I kind of felt like some of the documents that were put out were a little over the general consumer's head, but really didn't have a lot of meaning, such as, whether or not a lab or a production facility is OTC certified really means nothing when you're making lipsticks unless the lipsticks have sunscreen, because OTC is an over-the-counter drug, and pretty much the only thing in cosmetics that would be considered an over-the-counter drug would be sunscreen. So if the product doesn't have sunscreen in it, you're really not utilizing the OTC part of the facility. So it's kind of irrelevant whether or not it has that, but it's a buzzword that kind of makes you think, that the facility is that much better. It's kind of like saying that your car has rack and pinion steering and four-wheel disc brakes when all cars have rack and pinion steering and four-wheel disc brakes. It's not going to make your car run any better than the one next to it. So some of those things I took a little bit of issue with just for that reason. And then, as I said, the testing kind of fell with that, at least the GCMS testing, because it just wouldn't test for, for what everything is that's in all the ingredients that are in the formula. It would only pick up those that are the most volatile. So, you have a lot of experience with this. What kind of testing, if you were in that position, what kind of testing do you think would be ideal, and what would that reveal?
Okay, Jen, I just caught up. I had to close YouTube out on my computer. That is why there was such a lag. So I'm sorry.
Hopefully we can get Betty back. I pasted the link back into our chat group, so hopefully she can.
So how about we do this? While we are figuring what's going on with Betty, I don't think anyone has brought up yet, we put together a link down below in the description box to let everyone know how to report any contaminants or any complaints that they have with their Jaclyn Hill lipsticks. That way everybody can just click the link in the description box and it will take you exactly to the page on the internet to report anything, or it in some cases will list a phone number. So at least we have that said to make things a little bit easier on anyone that has purchased these lipsticks. And looks like Betty's back.
Yay, Betty! Zadi Doll has a great question for either one of you. Do you think that she did heavy metal testing?
In my opinion, probably not. Unless without knowing the raw material supplier and what country it came from, it's hard to say. Heavy metal testing is, on the pricier end. I just, based on what Jaclyn has put out in the universe between her videos and the paperwork, I don't think there would have been time to do that unless they did it in lab samples while they were formulating. And that would assume that they were using the same raw material suppliers in the lab as well as in product manufacturing. My opinion. We'll see what Betty has to say.
Did we lose Betty again? I think we
lost her again. Let's see. Were there any questions? Formulation-wise, I know you guys covered GCMS spec pretty well. Jen, you said it all.
People asked about FTC, and I think they mean FDA.
Okay, so the paperwork that Jaclyn put out shows very loosely that she supposedly worked or manufactured in a CGMP or GMP production facility. And what that means is that facility that the lipsticks were manufactured in is registered with the FDA, and the FDA has, sorry, words are escaping me. The FDA has approved the facility in regards to its following good manufacturing practices according to FDA standards.
Yes, but the FDA does not regulate cosmetics. We're not required to register cosmetics with the FDA. They really have very little oversight, even with the OTC certified over-the-counter certifications. They don't do, like, how do I say, surprise inspections or anything like that that I'm aware of. And I just, when it comes to cosmetics, there's a very little oversight. And I think it's because, I have a background in teeth whitening, and in teeth whitening, the FDA doesn't get involved because it's considered self-administered, meaning that you put it on yourself. And so the FDA doesn't get involved in regulating that, and they don't regulate cosmetics for the same reason. The FDA also cannot order a recall of cosmetic products. They can ask a manufacturer or distributor to remove products from the market. They can ask them to recall. They cannot physically recall them. They can, however, put out a warning, I believe, if they test and find certain things, find something to be unsafe. But let's face it, our government does not move fast with anything. And it's always best for the manufacturer to address the issues first and foremost, and take care of the issues accordingly. And I think it's important. It's just important to always put public safety first. I mean, there's nothing that's worth having somebody get hurt or worse. To me, there's nothing that's worse than that, and so I just wouldn't want to be responsible for that. And I think, I think as a business person, you have to have the best interests of the public at heart. And I think that was why, Betty has put a lot of her personal time into looking into these things. I'm sure that she's gotten criticized for it, and I think it's out of a genuine concern for public health. So, and I know, Laura, like, you're the same, and we've talked, and we just feel like it's important. Let's see if there's questions here in the chat. Okay, Christopher wants to know, he says, I was just curious about the cost for a recall. Is it cheaper to simply refund orders than it would have been to recall? Also, does favorite or business insurance cover recall loss? I believe that insurance would cover that. I don't know. I honestly don't know what the cost would be. One of the ladies might be able to speak to that. I'm sure Betty has been involved in recalls working in food at one time or another, and she might be able to tell that. I honestly don't know the answer. Does anybody? The cost of a recall and whether it's cheaper or not to refund orders, and would insurance cover it?
I cannot answer that question. The pharmaceutical company that I worked for when I was in the tail end of my career with them, we thankfully did not have any products that needed to be recalled, so I can't speak to that. However, in this instance, I feel like Jacqueline did a so-called soft recall by really just refunding the lipsticks. It's the easiest way for her to address the consumer complaints without really having to admit any kind of fault. However, with everyone following along, if everybody's been following along on social media, she has kind of, in a way, a roundabout way, admitted that there is a problem with these lipsticks. And those problems come from almost every point in the manufacturing process. There's problems with the formulation. There's problems probably from packaging. There's problems pretty much all the way down the line until it left, the warehouse. And then even when you include shipping conditions, there's issues with that because the product just isn't stable for the shipping conditions that they are being put under.
Yeah, you guys have some theories about what could have caused that, but maybe we can get to that in just a second. I wanted to answer a couple of questions. So Belinda wanted to know if Betty found animal hair in the lipsticks. As far as I know, she did not. She found white fibers, hairs, black fibers or hairs. She found what she thought was possibly an eyelash. And a piece of what she is fairly certain is metal that could be a piece of the little addition on the outside of the component. I did want to point out something that I found out last night because I had never actually seen the lipsticks up close, and I was over at Rich's place and he had one. And I did notice that when you close the lipstick down, if anyone has this, maybe in the chat, maybe you can tell us if yours is the same way. When you close the lipstick down, there's still an opening there. It clicks like it closes, but there's clearly still an opening. So I'm just wondering if anybody else has seen that. Finray would like to know, if people do decide to keep using the lipsticks, what are the potential risks that they should be aware of? Laura, could you answer that?
Well, in just looking through the ingredient list, there were a few ingredients that stood out to me as known potential allergens or even irritants to people that are sensitive, could be sensitive to these ingredients. The main one that stood out was benzobenzoate. Now that is, in my opinion, used in two ways in her formula. The first, it was used as part of her flavor system, her fragrance. And then secondly, it was listed at the very end of her ingredient list. And that one, to me, would signify that it was used as an additional preservative to the natural preservative system she chose to use in her formula. And that one, you can do, a simple search. There's a website called PubChem that you can look up ingredients, and there's also a cosmetics website that'll pop up if you do a general Google search that shows that it's a known allergen and skin irritant. If people were to use these with, chapped lips, if they have, any broken skin, or certain people can truly just have an allergy / sensitivity to it, and it can cause some, inflammation, a rash, those types of things. We can't say if there is mold on anyone's lipsticks yet, because no one has, that has done testing has come out and said, yes, the actual bullet, the lipstick that you apply to your lips has had mold.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at with that so far.
So the dangers. So what you're saying is the dangers are kind of unknown at this point.
They are unknown.
Some reactions, that people have reported, but it's really one of those things where you really don't know. So if you have a weakened immune system, probably best to just stay away.
For sure. I warned a couple of my friends to, yes, not use them, because we truly don't know whether or not these lipsticks are safe, because the contaminants have not all been identified.
Okay. Alex has a question. Is it really beneficial to register a business in Delaware? There are a couple of benefits of registering in Delaware. The first is that the officers of a corporation are kept secret, where in any other state you can easily pull up the articles of incorporation, which lists all the officers. The other is that in cases where there is litigation, you do not get a jury. You get a judge. And in most cases, a judge is very well versed in the law, of course, and is less likely to give like a giant award to, on sympathy, which I think sometimes juries do. So I think those are the main reasons why people incorporate in Delaware. Somebody else asked, do you think by issuing refunds to everyone was her form of a recall? I think we've all kind of agreed that I think everybody has to be aware that it's not a recall, but it seems that that's as good as you're going to get. Sue says, I worked in a food manufacturing facility. We had all our contractors carried insurance in case anything happening to stop production or recall of your product, depending on the level of your insurance, money-wise, what you're covered for. That makes sense. Okay, I'm just reading through the questions.
I think we have Betty back.
Yes, Alex says I still don't get her answer about batch codes and production codes. Seems lazy. You wouldn't have batch codes for each color. My experience is that there is a batch code for each color, and for some of these colors, there probably would have been more than one batch code because every vat would be its own batch. There's just no way to make hundreds of thousands of lipsticks with one kettle. Shanoa, I'm sorry. I was sick yesterday. I actually was sick with my stomach in both directions. It was not a pretty sight. So maybe my nose is stuffy. I apologize. For that. Betty, did you have anything that you wanted to add to the discussion about the things that we've been discussing while you were gone? Oh.
Betty, can you hear me at this point?
She may have a delay. Well, YouTube is not being helpful.
Definitely not.
Okay, do we have more questions that are coming through? Thank you, Belinda. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody. I do feel better. It was not a pretty sight there for a minute. And of course, we're not staying in the greatest hotel. Danielle, you're cute. Bueller, that's right. I don't know. I could see Betty. She looks pretty. Was there anything else that Cleo says, I'm shocked at what cosmetic companies can get away with. No consequences, it seems. I think it does seem that way, but I really think that most brands really hold themselves to a high standard, and how do I say? You do everything that you can do to, just put out the best product you can and protect the public, of course. No, like I said, nobody ever would want anything like this to happen. And anybody can have a one-off. Like, we've had people contact us and complain about bubbles or bumps in a lipstick here or there, over the years. It happens. I think it's the amount of issues that surface in such a short period of time.
Jen, do you want to go through some of the Twitter questions? I've got them in front of me.
You have them? Do you want to read some?
Yeah, I can read some. I think we're losing Betty in and out, so let me bring up some that we can discuss without her. One of the very first questions on Twitter was, are the issues that came up in Jaclyn Hill's lipsticks actually common in the cosmetic world?
I would say no. Like I said, you can have a one-off here or there where there's a piece of something that maybe airborne flies onto lipstick. Sure, that can absolutely happen. You can have a dent in a lipstick. You can have bubbles in a lipstick. I just at this level, it's the amount that seems to be the issue.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at the few pictures I've seen on social media, there were some mixing issues. There were some issues with once everything got poured into the molds, probably some storage issues. There's stability issues all the way down the line. And I don't know if you and Betty discussed any of the PDFs, but from me looking at the PDFs based on, my experience, it looks like what Jaclyn provided to everyone was either documentation from pre-production or paperwork and testing done as a result of all the complaints that came through after the lipsticks were out on the market.
Yeah.
Hey, Betty. Can you hear us now?
I think I can hear you now. Oh my gosh.
Tell me about it.
Okay, so the next question is, do you believe JH knew about the issues with the lipsticks before or during the release? From my perspective, I think somebody on the team should have known. I mean, for sure, we hand inspect every single lipstick. Not every brand does that, but our particular lipsticks are very high in pigment load, so they are somewhat prone to breaking, and so we're super careful. We shake them before we open them to see if the bullet will fall out and that kind of thing, and we're a little bit difficult on them just to be extra sure. But if nothing else, even under normal circumstances, I think if you had a box of 100 lipsticks, you would at least check 5 or 10 to see if there were issues, and if you found issues with a majority out of that 5 or 10, then you would go through and hand inspect the entire box. And so that one puzzles me quite a bit. It's and one of the possible reasons these issues were so prominent in these lipsticks. I think it goes back to the quality control. Would anybody else disagree with that, ladies?
That is correct. I'll elaborate a little bit. I would say, again, seeing pictures on social media, it appears to me, and Betty, you can speak to this too, because, we've talked a little bit that you're seeing undispersed and unmelted ingredients in the lipsticks in the little bit of microscopy you've been able to do. It's my opinion that this was kind of a rush manufacture job. Jaclyn said they were manufactured in May, and if they were released, out to distribution by the end of May, I feel like corners were cut in manufacturing to meet her deadlines.
Yeah. Belinda asked a great question. Did she use the same lipstick she released to the public? Do you know? I don't know that, but I will say for me, I'm cheap, and I always use the lab samples because they send to me, so I have them ahead of time, and I'll use them until they run out, and then I'll use stuff from production. But I would guess that she was probably using lab samples. That would be me.
I agree with that. Every video that I've watched of Jaclyn, Snapchats, social media, anything, she always refers back to, I had to call the lab to get me another sample. The last mention I remember her talking about was, in the launch of her lipstick video when she announced her launch. She kept saying that her mom kept, wanting another lipstick in her shade, and Jaclyn always mentioned she was calling the lab.
Well, and it seems that these colors were done a long time ago. Normally for us, by the time we finish something and it goes into production, then we're going to launch it within a few months normally. So I'm using the lab samples, and sometimes I'll have to ask them for another one. Like I've run out of setting sprays before because they'll send me a little mini bottle and that doesn't last me very long. But normally they'll last until well after the launch. Here's a great question. What are the legal repercussions of issuing a recall, and why would a brand not want to issue one? Debbie, would you be able to speak to that?
I think issuing a recall actually protects you more than not issuing a recall.
I would agree with that.
Because you're basically telling people that you're aware that a situation is occurring and you're not going to wait for 6 more months down the road for somebody to reach the middle of their lipstick and get hurt with something that that they didn't know was there. I think the faster that you do it, the quicker that you get it out there. That's the best decision that you can make.
I would tend to agree with that. And in this particular case, I think that some of the statements that were made actually could work against the brand, legally. I think the continuous insistence that they're not contaminated when they, everybody has visibly seen that there are certain contaminants, and your results bear that out as well, Betty. I feel as though that could actually be something that causes a problem later on. I think it's better it's really better to say we don't know, and it's better not to use them at least for a short period of time and let us kind of figure it out. I think that would be a fair thing to do short of a recall, for sure.
Right. But just the constant insist, on safety, and they're safe to use, and go ahead and use them. And, you're not buying a lip scrub, you're buying a lipstick, but if it's a little gritty, it should be all right. And, just safety is relative. Are you talking about safety like there's no E. coli in here that's going to kill you, or are you talking safety that maybe some immunocompromised people or some people that might have issues, with the grittiness, with the lack of mixing, with potential contaminations? Where's your level of safety that you're saying that this is safe?
Right. And then somebody asked another question I think we've addressed to some degree. What do the new PDFs on the FAQ site from Gerard Cosmetics say, and do they mean anything worthy?
Laura, you got this one. Well, we kind of touched on them a little bit. I think, she had one PDF from the microquality labs, which is, I believe, the lab she used in the US to do her micro testing. I only saw in one PDF that she possibly ran micro on the production samples, and it was one bulk sample. The rest of the micro testing was done after all the complaints started coming through. There were a few clues that I know some of the drama channels have pointed out on, how the product codes were different, listed different on some of these documents. We found that, Morphe's name was, blacked out, and I believe that was the document that showed the bulk testing on the possible production lot, and it wasn't done after production. But again, it's just speculation. Really, she threw out some documents, and all we can do is take them at face value, which isn't really that much. They're very hard to make sense of unless you're used to seeing documents like this. And the rest is just speculation. They really don't provide very many answers. She gave away her fragrance formula in these documents. I know, Jen, you touched on the GCMS testing.
Yeah.
And Jen's explanation was perfect.
We talked about the 12-week stability testing as well. Betty, here's a question for you. Are the white and black hair-like fibers really from gloves or humans or animals?
Well, I bought some cotton gloves because you have to know what you're comparing to. I bought two different brands of cotton gloves, based on just kind of what I had seen in labs and stuff. And there are cotton fibers in there. Now, I don't know if they're from gloves or towels, but they appear to be matching the glove cotton fibers. Now, again, there's an unusual amount of blue cotton fibers in there, and there's also the only thing so far that I found that is not a fiber. It's a hair, and I believe it's a human hair.
Okay. And that was the next question, were the hairs from animal or human? What shade was it that you found mold in the cap, Betty?
It was Control Freak.
Okay. Here's a great question. At which stage in the manufacturing process do you think the contamination most likely occurred?
See, to me, if the cap, it could have been anywhere. It could have been, if they were, let's say they were manufactured a year ago or 2 years ago, and they were stored in a warehouse. All that would need would be, a source of water, like a flood, where there's, microbial and fungal contaminants mixed in with water. Even if like a box were, to flood on the bottom of the box will dry. You might not even notice that anything had happened. It could have happened then. It could have happened, when somebody is a human being actually putting these caps on.
Yes, normally.
Okay, so again, if we are to believe that they are using cotton gloves, cotton gloves are porous. They're skin cells can get through. And the thing about where I found it is that JH parts, prominently sticks out. I mean, that whole ridge thing bothers me because, if like if you've ever stuck in a lipstick or a chapstick or anything in your purse or to travel with, gunk accumulates around where that seal is. That ridge is much too large for my comfort.
It is, and the one that I saw didn't seem as though it's sealed all the way. It could have
No
just been
way.
that one. I'm kind of wondering if anybody else, had that experience here. And I mean, I think we want to talk about like what we can do going forward. I think some really good things have come out of this situation. Number one, I know I'm looking at my makeup a lot more carefully. I'm sure everybody else is too. Um, thinking more about sanitation. I'm pretty good about I wash my brushes pretty much every time I use them, if not once a week at the most. So I'm pretty good about that. But I've never rolled up a lipstick and looked at it, like I have been lately. So I think that's a good thing that we're paying more attention. But here's a really great question. Should we be sanitizing our makeup that sits without use every so often? And what
What
would
do
you
you
use?
what do you think, Laura?
Does anybody want to
Did
answer
I?
that?
Do I want Laura? Go ahead and answer that one.
Well, you can. For personal use, if you live in a very hot climate, if you don't have air conditioning, if you don't have the capability of storing your cosmetics in a refrigerator, then yes, any of your creams, liquids, lipsticks, anything that's not a powder, you should either be mindful of the shelf life or the expiration dates, or you can try to sanitize them. But when it comes to creams and liquids, there's not, a tried and true way to 100% sanitize those types of things, in my opinion. You can avoid putting them directly to your skin, on your face, wherever, by using tools, and then you disinfect and clean your tools. That's, a good way of going about things. But as for any of your powders, yes, you can definitely sanitize them if you are not using a clean brush every time. Betty, any thoughts?
What would you clean them with?
Well, you can disinfect with
Alcohol.
alcohol. I believe it's the 70% isopropyl alcohol. Um, really, soap and water for your tools is good enough. Hand washing for anything that you're going to apply with your fingers. I am not a professional makeup artist, so if there's other things out there for sanitization that I'm not aware of, products that you can buy, to me, household use of the isopropyl alcohol should be enough.
Pari and Spirit, I think, is probably the most popular among makeup artists. But Zadi Doll says she's a makeup artist. She can maybe tell us. Here's another question. Do you have an opinion on how old the lipsticks are based on the fact that one of the lids tested positive for mold and yeast? And what about all the hair and fibers?
Well, the hair and fibers, I think, seem to be much more widespread. I mean, like I said, the lipsticks in general, I feel, the low moisture content are right now pretty resistant to, having an immediate yeast and mold issue. But the it's over time that could change, especially if that container isn't sealing properly, or something like that is happening. But you need a larger sample size. You need a samples, and that's why, again, it drives me crazy about the lack of like retained samples. Like, we try to do a 1% pull of a retained sample from everything that goes out. So if what would that be? That would be like 3,000 lipsticks if you sent out 300,000. That she should, have like checked or examined or have retained somewhere that she could, trace back and test again.
Jen, what is standard when it comes to cosmetics? I mean, I come from pharma. I'm used to overkill. We pull tens of thousands of samples in my experience. So what would be, common practice for cosmetics, since they're not as regulated as food and pharma?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's called, you have to do your own quality control. I mean, the brand is responsible to to check things. And as I said, we hand check almost every single product we sell gets hand checked individually. This has been something we've done from the beginning, and we still have things that slip by that get caught later. A liquid lipstick will go without a wand, and we don't know that because we don't open them, because that would contaminate them. Things like that. But I think, first and foremost, people should be reassured that this is definitely not normal. Like I said, any brand can have a one-off. I mean, the world is an imperfect place. I think that's to be expected. If somebody wrote into us and said, "Look, I have a white fuzzy on my lipstick," the response would be, "Please throw it away. We'll send you another." And
right.
But like I said, if you
But
test
you would,
the odds of that happening are not so great, and it would be one here and there.
right, but you wouldn't say it's safe, go ahead and use it, but we'll give you a refund.
Absolutely. Well, because no, it's not about money at that point. It's about putting somebody's health in danger. So, you have to look at it from that standpoint. It's just like, for instance, if somebody hits your car and they only do a certain amount of damage, and while you're waiting for the tow truck to come, I don't know, a typhoon comes along and destroys your car. You have to think about the possible repercussions of what you do. And now that person wouldn't be on the side of the road if it wasn't for that. So you just have to think about the possible repercussions of putting something out there that could possibly harm somebody, and nobody wants that. It's not worth it. This is not worth it. So
right.
you would never tell a customer, no. No, we would not tell them to continue to use it. At least we wouldn't. Yeah. I don't think most would.
Right. Okay. That's reassuring, Jen.
Okay, so Zadi Doll says to use Beauty So Clean or Cinema Secrets, but all will leave a bit of residue. And then maybe we could just do one last question. So somebody wanted to know what we should all learn from this.
What do you think, Laura?
Pay attention to what you purchase, inspect it, check the packaging to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Really give it a good look over before you apply it to your face or body. Check, expiration dates. All expiration dates that are listed on packages is from the day that it's opened. I don't know. There's so much. Like Jen said, what everybody experienced with this product was not common. So really, what everybody's going to be looking at is going to be probably overkill now. But yeah, you have to pay attention to your products. Look for fingerprints. Especially if you see fingerprints on the outside of the packaging, that means somebody may have opened it up and looked at it, swatched it, breathed on it, sneezed on it. You just got to look things over a little more closely since we're now all aware of cosmetics. The cosmetics industry isn't very well regulated by any government agency.
And I don't know about anybody else, but I really checked myself about the fact that I really don't look at my makeup at all. Like I just pop it out of the box. Oh my God, I want it so bad. And I just go right down because I'm so excited. I don't even look. So, I mean, I think I know for me, I definitely learned that. But I think as a consumer, I've learned that. As a brand owner, I've definitely learned some things as well. And we've actually changed our internal processes just a little bit to, to try to be even more careful with things. And I'll say, I think other brands have too. I had the Smoke Sessions palette that I bought from Milk Cosmetics. A great palette, by the way, if you don't have it, need it. But the formula is very, very soft and it does not travel very well. And I had it about 3 days. I took a Louisiana trip, and on the way home, in my carry-on, one of the shadows broke. And so I own a brand, so I know usually big things cost a lot of money. So I just fixed it with alcohol and didn't think about it. That was 2 or 3 months ago. And then the other day I noticed that it had bumps. And I was just like, oh no, I got for everything I've seen, my favorite color, it's the one on the far right, the really light green. And I wrote to the company and I said, listen, I wrote to them at midnight. I said, listen, I have this problem. I bought this palette, it was a couple months ago, and they emailed me back within probably 45 minutes in the middle of the night, which I thought was pretty good. And they said, no problem, we're going to send you a new shadow right away.
Yeah. The other thing that I just want to remind everyone is report on social media. The FDA has, a Twitter site. Again, we've attached links in the description box to all the governing agencies throughout a few countries. Don't hesitate to just take 2 minutes to fill out a form online, or if you don't have access to the internet, I know the US FDA has a hotline you can call to report it. The more we make noise, the more, the government agencies will hopefully start to pay more attention to issues like these.
Yeah, and I do have in the description box there is a link to some Google Docs there, and all the links and stuff are there. I think our intent is to have this hosted probably on Betty's channel going forward. We just hosted the live portion of it here because I would be able to get help to set up the tech, and believe me, even with that, it was a little dicey.
It's okay.
But we did get it going. It might have been the last possible second, but we did get it going. So my intent is to download it, and then I'll Dropbox it to Betty, and she can upload it onto her channel. But I think she intends on continuing to continuing to test. And I think we all owe her a debt of gratitude just for caring and taking the initiative to look into things the same way that Kenna did. I really, I feel it as a community, we really come together in a lot of ways. But I want to make it a point to say that nobody wanted to do this to be disrespectful to Jacqueline or to her brand or her family or anything else. It's just a lot of people had a lot of questions, and Betty was kind of getting peppered, so she thought after she put out her results, doing the Q&A would be a good idea, and she wanted to have somebody that has a lot of laboratory experience, like Laura does, and she wanted to have somebody with some cosmetic experiences, which is where I got recruited.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much to both of you, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Betty, for doing the bulk of the hard work here.
I'm going to have to start a GoFundMe if I have to keep buying these lipsticks, though. I'm telling you guys.
Betty, I'll have to make a donation to you, a monetary donation for all your time. I wish I could help in other ways.
Gerard Cosmetics PR packages are good. That's fine.
That'll work. You can consider that done. Okay, one last question. Alex says, are we collabing on a lipstick? No, not on a lipstick, but we do have a collab coming. It'll be coming out on his birthday. But you guys will see it soon. It's only a few weeks away.
One last thing for me, if anybody's interested, you can check out my Twitter page. I typed up a quick document right after all these complaints started rolling out, just kind of summing up my thoughts on what happened, what went wrong, based on everything Jacqueline has said and based on everything everybody has been seeing with the lipsticks. If anybody wants to check that out on my Twitter page, it's a pinned tweet. I'm at elmilo23.
And Betty, a number of people in the chat have commented that they really loved your email response.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have merch. Keep it bougie. Keep it bougie. Well, I just thought it was disrespectful of them to, for their first email responses to people to say that. So I just thought I'd kind of send that back a little bit. But, and I'm not kidding. I have like 8 weeks of vacation a year. If there's any CEOs out there or people that have their own makeup companies and want a lab audit, let me know, because I'm dying to see what goes on in these facilities. So I am putting that out there. I will do it pro bono. Just let me know.
Yeah, I think it's great. I know where you are, and maybe I'll drag you with me next time I'm coming to one that's not that far from you.
Okay. All right, cool.
It would still be a plane ride, but not all the way to California. So
not a problem.
And
not a problem.
Betty, are you still planning on continuing your investigation and sharing with the public?
Oh yeah. This is it's gonna have to work around stuff. I've got 2 lab audits. I've got out of town stuff to do. But yeah, I mean, I've got a good supply of lipsticks now. I've got a good plan on what I'm planning on doing with them. And yeah, I really want to get some rancidity testing done. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. Those pigments are not gonna stand in my way. So I'm gonna figure out how to do that, and I definitely wanna post some microscopy but you know what? Can I just do something really quick? I just want to urge the at-home scientists, just tread lightly. I know a lot of people out there are kind of either they're loving the lipsticks or they're kind of using them as a science experiment at this point.
yeah.
And just be careful with that. Just, make sure that you know what you're doing, make sure you're qualified, make sure, you're not thinking that something's contamination, that's, something's a positive that's contamination. Just be careful. That's all I want to say to the DIY scientists out there at home with their microscopes and their bacteria plates.
I would agree with that. I think they were well-intentioned and probably just trying to get answers where really none were coming from anywhere else. And so it makes sense, but you're absolutely right. You don't want to start a panic on
Right. Right.
Yeah. So at any rate, everybody, thank you so much for participating. And Betty, thank you for inviting me. And I'll get this. I'm flying home first thing in the morning. So when I get home, I'll figure out how to upload this and get you a Dropbox
Okay.
to put it on your channel. And,
Okay.
And I think it's just amazing of you to take your time. And Laura, you're so knowledgeable. Really, just appreciate your input.
Yeah. Thank you so much to both of you.
Okay, everyone. Have a great night. Thanks for coming along. And I'm going to have a video up here in the next few days. So don't worry. A video.
Okay.
A regular fun Jen video.
Okay.
Anything so important. Talk to you all later. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.